In the dense, whispering woods bordering the sleepy town of Cedar Hollow, Jack Mercer moved with the practiced ease of a man who had spent a lifetime under the open sky. His boots pressed softly into the carpet of fallen leaves, their crunch muffled by the thick moss that blanketed the forest floor. Jack was a seasoned hunter, a solitary figure whose rugged frame and weathered face told stories of countless seasons spent tracking game. Dug through terrain that shifted from sun-dappled clearings to shadowed thickets. It was early morning, the sun still low and pale through the mist, when Jack's rifle was steady in his hands, the barrel aimed into the underbrush. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to like and subscribe, and I want to know, what's your favorite animal? And have you ever had a close call with wildlife? The hunt was routine, as it always was. A quiet ritual that connected him to the land and to his own memories of a simpler time. But this morning, something unexpected happened. A stray dog, a medium-sized creature with a coat mottled in shades of gray and white, emerged hesitantly from a tangled thicket, its ears pinned back and eyes wide with fear. The dog's limp was subtle but unmistakable, a troubling sign that something was wrong. Jack's finger twitched on the trigger reflexively, a warning shot meant to startle the animal away. But the shot rang out sharp and sudden, echoing through the trees, and the dog collapsed, a soft whimper escaping its throat. Jack froze, the weight of what he had just done settling in like a cold stone in his chest. The woods were silent again, save for the faint rustling of leaves and the distant call of a crow. He approached cautiously, heart pounding with a mixture of shock and regret. The dog lay still, eyes fluttering open just long enough to reveal a flicker of pain before closing again. Jack knelt beside it, the rough bark of a nearby tree scratching his back as he leaned over the injured creature. He was a man of the wild, accustomed to dealing with life and death in the natural order. But the sight of the dog, vulnerable and hurt, stirred something unexpected within him. Unbeknownst to Jack, this dog was no ordinary stray. Luna, as she was known to those who loved her, was the loyal companion of Maya Collins, a Navy SEAL whose life was a world apart from Jack's solitary existence. Maya's days were filled with discipline, danger, and the unyielding demands of a profession that required precision and resilience. Luna was more than a pet. She was a partner, trained for tactical support and fiercely protective of Maya, her presence a constant in a life defined by uncertainty and risk. As Jack sat beside Luna, his fingers brushing gently over her matted fur, the weight of his mistake deepened. He was a man who respected the land and its creatures. Yet, in a moment of reflex, he had become the cause of suffering for a being he had never intended to harm. The woods, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage, the shadows closing in around him as the consequences of his actions began to loom. Hours earlier, Maya had awoken before dawn, her routine sharpened by years of military precision. She moved through her small cabin on the edge of the forest with quiet efficiency, preparing for the day ahead. Luna was already awake, tail wagging softly as she padded to Maya's side, sensing the shift in their morning ritual. The bond between them was unspoken, but profound. A connection forged through training, trust, and countless shared experiences in environments where survival depended on instinct and teamwork. Maya's mind was on the upcoming mission, yet a gnawing unease tugged at her heart. Luna had been restless the night before, whimpering softly at intervals that Maya had initially dismissed as a fleeting discomfort. But now, as she clipped on Luna's leash and stepped outside into the cool morning air, that feeling grew stronger. The dog's limp was subtle but unmistakable, and Maya's sharp eyes caught the faintest sign of distress. Their usual walk through the forest took on a new urgency as Luna's pace slowed, the dog occasionally pausing to shake her head or lift a paw gingerly off the ground. Maya's mind raced through possibilities: injury, illness, something worse. But she refused to succumb to panic. She was trained to face danger head on, and now her protective instincts extended beyond the battlefield to the wounded companion at her side. Back in the woods, Jack gathered what little supplies he carried, a small first aid kit and a bottle of water, and lifted Luna carefully into his arms. His rugged hands, calloused from years of hard work, cradled her gently as he made his way toward the edge of the forest, where the nearest road wound its way back to town. The dog's breathing was shallow, her eyes half-lidded in pain, and Jack's heart ached with a growing sense of responsibility. He had no idea who Luna belonged to or the bond they shared, but the impulse to save her was undeniable. The path was uneven and treacherous, roots and stones threatening to trip him with every step. But Jack moved steadily, driven by a determination that surprised even him. He thought of the stories his father had told him, of the respect owed to all living creatures and the code of honor that guided a hunter's hand. This was a breach of that code, and he intended to make it right. Meanwhile, Maya was rallying her own resources. She had called a trusted friend, a local veterinarian familiar with working alongside military and service dogs, explaining the situation with terse urgency. Plans were forming in her mind: search parties, postings on community boards, even reaching out to nearby military contacts who might assist in locating Luna if she had somehow been taken or lost deeper in the forest. The morning sun rose higher, casting jagged shadows through the trees as the two worlds moved closer to collision. Jack, carrying Luna with care and growing guilt, and Maya, mobilizing every resource at her disposal to find her beloved companion, were on paths destined to intersect. The quiet woods held their breath, the fragile balance of nature and human error poised on the edge of revelation. Jack's thoughts were a tumultuous mix of regret and resolve. He knew he would have to face the consequences of his actions, the questions, the anger, perhaps even legal repercussions. But for now, his focus was on Luna, her life hanging in the balance. He whispered apologies into the cool air, promises to protect and heal, even as the reality of what he had done settled into the marrow of his bones. At the same time, Maya's search was relentless. She moved through the town, speaking with neighbors, scanning security footage where available, and posting notices describing Luna's distinctive coat and the injury she feared had worsened overnight. Her military training lent her a calm determination, but beneath that, a fierce worry burned. Luna was more than a dog. She was a lifeline, a symbol of stability amid the chaos of Maya's demanding world. As the day stretched on, the threads of Jack's and Maya's stories pulled taut, converging toward an inevitable encounter. The forest, vast and ancient, bore silent witness to this unfolding drama. A meeting of two very different lives bound together by a single, tragic moment. Jack stopped at the edge of the road, the weight of Luna in his arms almost overwhelming. He glanced back into the forest, the shadows deeper now, and took a deep breath. He knew that the solitude he had cherished was gone, replaced by a responsibility he had never sought but could no longer deny. Luna's soft whimpers echoed in his ears, a fragile plea that would lead him out of the woods and into a confrontation with a past and a future he had not anticipated. Meanwhile, Maya's phone buzzed constantly with updates and messages, each one a thread in the tapestry of hope and fear that wrapped around her heart. She refused to give up, driven by a bond that transcended words and a determination forged in the crucible of service and sacrifice. The day was far from over, and the story of Jack, Maya, and Luna was only just beginning. In the quiet woods of Cedar Hollow, beneath the towering trees and amidst the whispering leaves, a single shot had changed everything. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was paved with the possibility of redemption, forgiveness, and an unexpected connection born from the collision of two worlds. Maya Collins stood at the edge of her modest porch, the morning light casting long shadows across the weathered wood. Her gaze drifted toward the dense forest that bordered her home, a familiar but now fraught landscape that had always been a sanctuary and a training ground alike. The absence of Luna's cheerful bark, a sound so woven into the fabric of her daily life, left a hollow ache in her chest. The dog's sudden disappearance after the apparent injury had unsettled Maya more profoundly than she expected, stirring a tempest of frustration and grief that tangled with her disciplined mind. Maya's life had been defined by structure and rigor, carved out through years of grueling Navy SEAL training and missions that demanded unwavering focus and resilience. She was accustomed to control, to calculated responses in the face of chaos. Yet Luna's absence exposed vulnerabilities she usually kept buried beneath layers of tactical precision. The dog was not merely a companion. She was a partner, a trusted ally in both training exercises and moments of solitude. Luna's loyalty was unshakable, and her loss felt like an unraveling thread in Maya's carefully stitched world. The mornings since Luna vanished were punctuated by restless pacing and endless calls to friends and local vets. Maya's phone was a constant companion, its screen lighting up with messages and missed calls from concerned neighbors who had spotted a stray dog wandering near the forest's edge. Each lead, however faint, was a lifeline she clung to with desperate hope. Maya's military instincts propelled her forward, methodical, strategic, relentless, even as her heart grew heavier with each passing hour. Inside her home, the walls bore silent witness to the tension coiling within her. Photographs of missions, medals tucked away in a glass case, and maps marked with tactical routes surrounded her, reminders of a life built on discipline and sacrifice. Yet, Luna's absence cracked through the armor of routine, revealing the rawness beneath the surface. The dog's absence was a stark contrast to the controlled chaos Maya was trained to navigate. It was personal, unpredictable, and deeply painful. Maya's frustration was compounded by a gnawing sense of helplessness. Despite her training, the tools of her military life had limited use in this situation. She was no longer facing a clearly defined enemy or mission objective. Instead, she grappled with the unknown. Luna's whereabouts, her condition, and the cruel possibility that the injury might be worse than she feared. Her mind raced through scenarios, each more troubling than the last. But she refused to succumb to despair. Her evenings were spent combing through social media posts and local bulletin boards, scanning for any mention of a gray and white dog matching Luna's description. She contacted local animal shelters, veterinarians, and even the police, hoping that someone had found her companion and was keeping her safe. Maya's network stretched beyond Cedar Hollow, tapping into military contacts and friends who offered their support and resources. The search became a mission in itself, one that she approached with the same unwavering determination she had applied to every operation in her career. Yet, as days turned into a week, the strain was visible. Maya's usually sharp, blue eyes darkened with exhaustion, and a weariness settled into her movements. The steady rhythm of her life had been disrupted, replaced by a restless urgency that left little room for anything else. Friends and neighbors noticed the change, offering quiet support and words of encouragement. But Maya's mind remained fixated on the missing dog. Jack Mercer, meanwhile, existed in a world almost opposite to Maya's, Yet the ripples of their intertwined fates were beginning to reach him. His rugged, solitary lifestyle was rooted in a deep connection to the land and a stoic acceptance of hardship. Jack's days were marked by the simplicity of survival. Tending to his modest cabin, repairing fences, and hunting to provide for himself. He prized solitude and the quiet that the forest offered, a stark contrast to the disciplined chaos of Maya's military existence. Jack's initial reaction to shooting the stray dog had been one of shock and guilt, emotions unfamiliar and unwelcome in a life accustomed to clear roles and expectations. As he cradled Luna in his arms and carried her from the woods, the weight of responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders. His rough hands, more accustomed to wielding a rifle or an axe, now sought to soothe and protect this fragile creature. The dog's injuries were evident, and Jack's limited knowledge of veterinary care left him uncertain, but determined to do whatever he could. His attempts to care for Luna were clumsy yet earnest. He fashioned makeshift bandages from scraps of cloth, offered sips of water, and kept her close through the chill of the night. Jack's demeanor softened in Luna's presence, revealing a side of him rarely seen, a man capable of tenderness beneath his gruff exterior. Yet, his isolation also bred insecurity. He wondered if Maya, the dog's owner, would ever forgive him or even understand the accident that had shattered their lives. The tension between Jack's rugged individualism and the looming reality of his actions created an internal conflict. He was caught between pride and remorse, between the desire to make amends and the fear of confrontation. Jack's world did not easily accommodate vulnerability, but Luna's plight forced him to confront emotions he had long suppressed. The dog's silent suffering was a mirror to his own hidden wounds, and as he navigated this unfamiliar terrain, Jack found himself grappling with a sense of helplessness that rivaled Maya's. Despite their differences, the invisible threads connecting Maya and Jack were strengthening. Maya's searches increasingly encroached upon Jack's territory, and whispers among neighbors hinted at sightings of a man carrying a dog through the forest. The community, small and tight-knit, buzzed with speculation and concern, and the lines between ally and adversary began to blur. Both Maya and Jack were driven by love and responsibility. Yet their worlds remained divided by the circumstances of Luna's injury. Maya's frustration deepened as she encountered obstacles in her search. Some community members were dismissive, viewing her military background with suspicion or misunderstanding. Others questioned the urgency she displayed, not grasping the depth of her bond with Luna. The contrast between her disciplined, purposeful approach and the casual attitudes of some townsfolk heightened her sense of isolation. Yet, Maya refused to retreat. She persevered, fueled by the unyielding connection to her dog and the belief that Luna's survival depended on finding her quickly. As the days wore on, Maya's internal struggle became more apparent. The tension between her professional training and personal vulnerability created a complex emotional landscape. She was a warrior accustomed to control, now navigating the messy unpredictability of loss and uncertainty. The frustration and grief intertwined, shaping her actions and interactions as she balanced hope with fear. Jack, too, faced his own battles. The whispers in town grew louder, the weight of suspicion pressing in. He found himself at odds with neighbors who questioned his choices and motives, their judgment a stark reminder of the fragility of reputation in a small community. Yet, in quiet moments with Luna, Jack's resolve hardened. He was determined to care for her, to protect her, even if it meant facing the consequences of his mistake. The parallel narratives of Maya and Jack unfolded like two sides of the same coin, each struggling with loss, each grappling with responsibility, each driven by an unspoken hope for redemption. The tension between them simmered beneath the surface, a silent promise of the confrontation and collaboration that lay ahead. In the stillness of night, Maya sat by the window of her cabin, the moonlight casting a pale glow over the forest beyond. Her thoughts were a whirlwind of strategies and prayers, plans and fears. Luna's absence was a void that nothing else could fill, and Maya's heart ached with a longing that transcended reason. She vowed silently to find her dog, to bring her home, and to heal the wounds that fate had inflicted. Farther down the road, Jack sat on the porch of his cabin, the quiet interrupted only by the soft sighs of the injured dog resting beside him. His gaze was distant, lost in memories and regrets. Yet beneath the surface, a flicker of hope burned. He was a man changed by circumstance, drawn into a story larger than the woods he called home. The lives of Maya Collins and Jack Mercer were converging, bound by Luna's fate and the fragile threads of understanding yet to be woven. The forest that had witnessed the accident now stood as a silent witness to their unfolding story, a story of pain and perseverance, of frustration and forgiveness, and of two souls on the brink of an extraordinary connection. Jack Mercer's heavy boots thudded against the uneven forest floor as he carried Luna toward the narrow dirt road that led back to Cedar Hollow. The dog's breathing was shallow, her body limp against his chest. But she was alive. And for Jack, that fragile spark of life was enough to fuel a determination he hadn't expected to feel. The weight of guilt pressed on him like the dense canopy overhead, a relentless reminder of the shot that had changed everything in an instant. Yet amidst the thick pines and whispering leaves, a new resolve began to take root. He would do whatever it took to nurse Luna back to health. Reaching the outskirts of town, Jack's pace slowed as he scanned the familiar surroundings with a cautious eye. He had lived here for years, preferring the solitude of the woods and the simplicity it offered. But now the world outside those trees felt uncertain, even hostile. The hunter in him was used to control, to the clear rules of survival in nature. This was different. Luna's injury was a complication he hadn't anticipated, a knot of responsibility tangled in his otherwise solitary existence. Jack's first stop was a small veterinary clinic on the edge of town, a place known for its compassionate care of animals, both domestic and wild. The scent of antiseptic and the low hum of fluorescent lights greeted him as he entered, clutching Luna carefully. The vet, Dr. Sarah Henderson, was a woman with kind eyes and steady hands, her years of experience evident in the calm confidence with which she approached the injured dog. "Where did you find her?" Sarah asked gently, kneeling to examine Luna's wound as Jack explained in halting words what had happened. "In the woods. I was hunting. I didn't mean to, but she got caught in the shot. She's bad off, I think," Jack admitted, his voice rough but sincere. Sarah nodded, her expression serious as she assessed the extent of the injury. Luna's leg was badly wounded, fractured and bleeding, and the risk of infection was high. Without immediate surgery and intensive care, the prognosis was grim. Jack's heart sank as the vet outlined the treatment plan and the associated costs, which far exceeded the modest means he had saved for emergencies. Jack's face tightened, the reality settling over him like a storm cloud. The money wasn't the only concern. It was the knowledge that his actions had brought Luna to this point. Yet, despite the weight of guilt and the uncertain road ahead, Jack resolved to stay and see this through. He wasn't accustomed to asking for help, but the dog's life depended on it. Luna, who had once been a stranger in the forest, was now his responsibility. Meanwhile, Maya Collins was mobilizing her own network with a precision that mirrored her military training. From her cabin, she coordinated search efforts with local volunteers, posted flyers, and contacted animal shelters. Every lead was followed, every tip investigated. Her frustration grew with each dead end, but so did her determination. Luna was more than a dog to her. She was a symbol of hope and loyalty, a constant in the unpredictable world Maya inhabited. News of a man seen carrying an injured dog near the forest edge reached Maya through a neighbor's message, sparking a flicker of cautious optimism. Could this be Luna? The possibility sent a jolt through her system, mixing relief with the anxiety of uncertainty. Maya prepared to investigate, driven by a mix of hope and professional resolve. Jack, now facing the financial and emotional burden of Luna's care, found unexpected support from Dr. Henderson. Recognizing the genuine remorse in Jack's eyes and the seriousness of the situation, she offered to work out a payment plan and connected him with a local animal welfare group that occasionally assisted in cases like this. The gesture was small but significant, a bridge between Jack's isolated world and the broader community. As Luna underwent surgery, Jack remained at the clinic, the hours stretching into an anxious vigil. The sterile environment was foreign to him, far removed from the wilderness where he felt most at home. Yet the presence of the injured dog, fragile but fighting, anchored him. He spoke softly to Luna, promising protection and care, his gruff exterior softened by the tenderness he showed. Maya arrived at the clinic following the tip, her heartbeat quickening as she stepped inside and spotted Jack sitting quietly near the recovery area. Their eyes met, hers sharp and searching, his wary but honest. In that moment, the weight of the past and the uncertainty of the future hung between them. Maya's military discipline clashed with Jack's rugged independence. Yet there was a mutual understanding rooted in shared concern for Luna. The initial conversation was cautious, tinged with tension and unspoken questions. Maya's frustration bubbled beneath her calm exterior, tempered by the necessity of gathering information. Jack, still grappling with guilt, was defensive yet open to dialogue. They exchanged details, how Luna had been found, the circumstances of the injury, and the care being provided. The cracks in their separate worlds began to show, revealing the humanity beneath. Maya's frustration was palpable. "You should have reported this immediately," she said, her voice steady but edged with hurt. "Luna is trained for tactical support. She's not just a pet." Jack's response was gruff but sincere. "I didn't mean to hurt her. I panicked. I'm trying to make it right." The exchange was raw and honest, a collision of two perspectives shaped by vastly different lives. Maya's military background demanded accountability and precision. Jack's wilderness-honed instincts leaned toward survival and solitude. Yet their shared concern for Luna forged a tentative connection. With Luna's condition stabilizing after surgery, the focus shifted to her recovery. Maya and Jack faced an unspoken truce, a fragile agreement to collaborate for the dog's sake. Maya offered her expertise in Luna's rehabilitation, while Jack's knowledge of the terrain and local resources became invaluable. Their interactions were marked by a cautious respect, each learning to navigate the other's world with tentative steps. The community, too, began to respond. Neighbors who had viewed Jack with suspicion started to see his efforts and remorse, softening their judgments. Maya's presence, once met with skepticism, grew into a symbol of determination and compassion. Together, they became unlikely allies in a shared mission. The days that followed were a delicate balance of tension and hope. Luna's progress was slow but steady, her spirit resilient even as her body healed. Jack and Maya's interactions evolved, from guarded exchanges to collaborative planning, as they confronted the practical challenges of care and the emotional complexities of their intertwined lives. Jack found himself reflecting on the unexpected path he had taken, from a solitary hunter to a caretaker drawn into a community and a cause larger than himself. Maya grappled with the vulnerability exposed by Luna's injury and disappearance, learning to trust in others even as she maintained her disciplined resolve. Their worlds, once so separate, began to converge in the quiet moments of shared concern and effort. The forest that had witnessed Luna's injury now echoed with the tentative beginnings of understanding and cooperation. As Luna rested, wrapped in the soft blankets of the vet's office, Jack and Maya stood side by side, the weight of their individual burdens eased by the promise of a fragile alliance. Neither knew what challenges lay ahead, but both understood that the path to healing, of Luna, of themselves, and of their fractured connection, would require more than strength or skill alone. In the stillness of that room, surrounded by the hum of medical equipment and the soft breathing of a dog fighting to live, two strangers found an unexpected bond. The journey toward resolution had begun, marked by pain, regret, and the glimmer of hope that even in the wilderness of mistakes, redemption was possible. The quiet hum of the veterinary clinic was punctuated by the low, labored breathing of Luna as Jack Mercer sat beside her, his rough hands gently stroking her matted fur. Days had passed since the surgery, but the road to recovery was proving more difficult than anyone had anticipated. Luna's wounds were severe, and the risk of complications loomed large. Jack's mind was a tempest of guilt and determination, each moment spent at her side sharpening his resolve to make amends for the mistake that had shattered their lives. Outside the clinic's walls, the community of Cedar Hollow was stirring with whispers and judgments, the fragile threads of trust beginning to fray. Jack's hesitation to immediately report the incident had not gone unnoticed, and many in town viewed his silence as a betrayal of the unwritten code that governed their close-knit world. His once respected status as a skilled hunter was now clouded by suspicion and quiet disapproval. The very people who had once offered nods of acknowledgement now cast wary glances, their conversations laced with skepticism. Jack felt the weight of their judgment keenly. The solitude he cherished was no longer a refuge, but a prison of isolation. His neighbor's disapproval was a sharp reminder that actions carried consequences beyond the forest's borders. Yet, the growing pressure was not solely external. Inside, Jack battled a gnawing fear that his efforts to save Luna might not be enough, that the fragile life he held in his arms might slip away despite all he could do. Compounding this tension was the response of Jack's hunting community. The men he had hunted alongside for years viewed his hesitation and growing attachment to Luna as a sign of weakness. Their rugged code valued strength, decisiveness, and stoicism, qualities Jack had embodied until now. Whispers among them suggested that Jack was losing his edge, that his heart was compromising his skills. Some offered thinly veiled criticism, others distanced themselves entirely. The camaraderie that had once been a source of pride now felt like a distant memory. Amid this turmoil, Jack found himself at a crossroads. The solitary existence he had long embraced was slipping away, replaced by a responsibility that demanded vulnerability and connection. He wrestled with the choice between retreating into isolation or stepping forward to face the consequences of his actions head-on. The decision was complicated by his fear of confrontation and the unknown path that lay ahead. Meanwhile, Maya Collins' search for Luna intensified. Her military background lent her a strategic edge as she coordinated efforts that extended beyond Cedar Hollow's borders. Utilizing contacts from her SEAL team and local law enforcement, Maya expanded the network of eyes and ears, searching for any sign of her missing companion. Flyers plastered on telephone poles, social media posts shared across neighborhood groups, and scheduled search parties combed the surrounding wilderness. Yet, each passing day without concrete news deepened the ache in her heart. Maya's frustration grew as well. The absence of definitive leads tested her patience and resolve. The dog's disappearance was not merely a personal loss, but a wound to her sense of order and control. Military training had taught her to expect the unexpected, yet the unpredictability of Luna's fate gnawed at her. She found herself oscillating between hope and despair, the emotional turbulence at odds with the calm exterior she projected. The growing urgency prompted Maya to seek professional assistance. She reached out to Dr. Sarah Henderson, the veterinarian who had treated Luna after the incident, sharing details of the dog's status and the circumstances of her disappearance. Dr. Henderson's clinical knowledge and compassion became a crucial resource, offering insights into Luna's condition and the care she required. Maya's collaboration with the vet fostered a sense of shared mission, a bridge between the worlds of military discipline and medical expertise. As Luna's condition worsened, Jack faced a painful reality. The makeshift care he had provided in the early days was insufficient, and the dog's injuries required specialized attention beyond what the clinic could offer. The threat of infection loomed, and the possibility of permanent disability or loss was a constant shadow. Jack grappled with feelings of helplessness and fear, emotions unfamiliar and unwelcome, but impossible to ignore. In an act that surprised even himself, Jack sought out a specialist veterinarian at a nearby animal hospital, one known for working with service animals and trauma cases. The decision was a turning point, an acknowledgement that Luna's survival depended on more than his efforts or the care available in Cedar Hollow. The journey to the hospital was fraught with anxiety, the weight of responsibility pressing heavily as Jack prepared to entrust Luna's fate to others. The visit to the specialist introduced new complications. The extent of Luna's injuries was more severe than initially thought, requiring a series of surgeries and prolonged rehabilitation. The financial cost was staggering, far beyond what Jack could afford. The realization was crushing, threatening to undo the fragile hope that had sustained him. Yet, even in the face of overwhelming odds, Jack's determination remained steadfast. He vowed to find a way, no matter the sacrifice. This growing crisis forced Jack to confront the reality of his situation. His pride and independence clashed with the necessity of seeking help. He reached out to local animal welfare organizations and community leaders, explaining Luna's plight and his commitment to her care. The response was mixed. Some offered assistance and encouragement, others remained wary, their support tempered by the controversy surrounding Jack's initial silence. Meanwhile, Maya's role shifted from searcher to advocate. Learning of Luna's critical condition, she mobilized resources to support the dog's treatment, coordinating fundraising efforts and rallying community support. Her military leadership skills proved invaluable in organizing volunteers and managing logistics, transforming personal anguish into purposeful action. The collaboration between Maya and Jack, once tentative and strained, deepened as they united in the shared goal of saving Luna. Yet, tensions persisted beneath the surface. Jack's growing reliance on external help sparked internal conflicts, challenging his self-image as a rugged individualist. Maya's frustration with the slow progress and the lingering resentment toward Jack's initial failure to report the injury added layers of complexity to their interactions. Their alliance was fragile, built on necessity rather than trust. and each encounter was tinged with unspoken grievances. As Luna's condition teetered between hope and despair, the stakes escalated. The community's eyes were upon them, divided between sympathy and suspicion. The incident had ignited conversations about responsibility, accountability, and the ethics of hunting. Public opinion swirled, with some condemning Jack's actions and others rallying to his cause. The fallout extended beyond personal relationships, touching on broader themes of human-animal connection and the fragile balance between tradition and change. Jack's nights were restless, haunted by dreams of the moment he fired the shot and the agonized whimpers that followed. The forest, once a place of peace and purpose, now seemed a place of reckoning. His identity as a hunter was in flux, challenged by the reality of unintended harm and the demands of atonement. The path to redemption was uncertain and fraught with obstacles, yet Jack walked it with a quiet resolve born from the depths of remorse. Maya, too, wrestled with her own demons. The loss of control she experienced in Luna's disappearance contrasted sharply with her military training, where precision and planning were paramount. The emotional toll was evident in moments of quiet vulnerability, glimpses behind the stoic facade she maintained. Her commitment to Luna's recovery was unwavering, a testament to the profound bond they shared. Within this crucible of pain and responsibility, both Jack and Maya began to recognize the complexities of forgiveness and healing. Their worlds, once divergent and distant, were now irrevocably intertwined by the fragile life of Luna and the shared journey toward making things right. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over Cedar Hollow, Jack prepared to face another day filled with challenges and choices. The forest beyond, silent and watchful, stood as a reminder that nature held both consequence and possibility. The story unfolding was far from over, but within the tension and uncertainty lay the seeds of transformation, waiting to be nurtured by courage, compassion, and the willingness to change. Maya Collins sat in the dimly lit office of Dr. Sarah Henderson, the local veterinarian whose steady dedication had become a lifeline in the tense days since Luna's injury. The walls were lined with photographs of animals saved and cared for, a testament to the quiet battles waged daily in the small town of Cedar Hollow. Maya's blue eyes, usually sharp and unyielding, softened as she absorbed Sarah's update on Luna's condition. Fragile, but improving, thanks to the specialized care and unwavering attention from both the medical team and an unexpected ally. Jack Mercer's name came up frequently in the conversation, revealing a side of the rugged hunter that few in town had seen. Sarah described how Jack had secretly collaborated with her, reaching out in earnest to learn about Luna's needs and offering what assistance he could despite his limited resources. His remorse was palpable, and while his rough demeanor masked vulnerability, his commitment to Luna's recovery was undeniable. Maya's frustration mingled with a grudging respect. The man who had caused Luna's injury was now an essential part of the effort to save her. The complexity of their shared mission was not lost on her. A tangled web of guilt, responsibility, and hope. As they spoke, Maya found herself reconsidering the hard lines she had drawn between herself and Jack, recognizing that their conflicting worlds might hold the key to Luna's healing. Sarah suggested bringing in experts familiar with service dogs, veterinarians and trainers who specialized in rehabilitating animals like Luna, whose roles went beyond companionship to tactical support. Maya immediately saw the value in this, understanding that Luna's recovery wasn't just physical, but also psychological. The trauma of injury and separation could not be underestimated, especially for a dog trained to operate in high-stress environments. Maya's military contacts proved invaluable. Within days, a small team of specialists arrived in Cedar Hollow, bringing with them equipment, knowledge, and experience tailored to Luna's unique needs. The team included a canine physical therapist, a behaviorist, and a trainer familiar with Navy SEAL canine units. Their presence infused the community with cautious optimism, signaling a turning point in the long struggle to restore Luna's health. Jack, initially hesitant to engage with the specialists, found himself drawn into their care. His practical nature and intimate knowledge of the local environment complemented their expertise. The sessions were strenuous and sometimes frustrating, but Jack's steady presence provided a grounding influence. He adapted quickly, learning how to assist with Luna's exercises and rehabilitation, his rough hands becoming tools of healing rather than harm. The collaboration between Jack and the specialists was a fragile but growing alliance. Maya observed their interactions with a mix of skepticism and hope. The man who had once been a symbol of recklessness was now demonstrating a willingness to change, to embrace responsibility beyond his familiar solitude. For Maya, this was a crucial step, not just for Luna's recovery, but for the fragile truce forming between two very different people. Community members began to take notice as well. The presence of the specialists, combined with Jack's visible efforts, softened some of the town's initial harsh judgments. Volunteers offered to assist with fundraising and logistical support, and local businesses contributed resources. The collective energy shifted from blame to action, fostering a sense of shared purpose that transcended earlier divisions. Maya took a leading role in coordinating these efforts. Her military leadership skills proving essential in organizing schedules, delegating tasks, and maintaining momentum. Her interactions with Jack grew more frequent and less guarded, marked by a tentative respect that hinted at the possibility of understanding. They were learning to navigate the delicate balance between past grievances and present needs. Despite progress, the road remained challenging. Luna's injuries meant that recovery would be slow and uncertain. Setbacks tested everyone's patience and resolve. There were moments when Luna's spirit seemed to wane, her usual alertness replaced by fatigue or discomfort. These times were hardest for Maya, whose bond with Luna went beyond duty to deep affection. She found herself wrestling with fears that the dog she knew might never fully return. Jack, too, confronted his own doubts. The community's skepticism lingered, and his internal struggle between pride and humility was ongoing. Yet, his commitment to Luna's rehabilitation was unwavering, a testament to the change simmering beneath his grizzled exterior. Each small victory, a wag of Luna's tail, a successful step in therapy, was a balm to his conscience and a reminder of why he had to keep going. The specialists introduced new approaches to Luna's care, blending physical therapy with behavioral techniques aimed at rebuilding confidence and trust. Exercises designed to strengthen muscles and improve mobility were paired with activities that engaged Luna's tactical training, helping her reconnect with her sense of purpose. Maya and Jack participated actively, learning how to support these efforts and adapting their routines around Luna's needs. One afternoon, as the sun filtered through the clinic windows, Maya and Jack worked side by side during a therapy session. Luna, guided gently by the trainer, took tentative steps on a balance board, her eyes focused and alert despite the evident effort. The moment was quiet but profound, a convergence of human determination and animal resilience. Maya glanced at Jack, noting the concentration etched on his face, the careful way he encouraged Luna without overwhelming her. It was a different man from the solitary hunter she had imagined, someone willing to learn and grow. Jack met her gaze briefly, a flicker of acknowledgement passing between them, a silent recognition of shared purpose. Outside the clinic, the community's involvement deepened, Fundraisers were organized to help cover mounting medical expenses, and educational talks about responsible hunting and animal welfare were scheduled. The incident that had once sparked division was now a catalyst for dialogue and change. Maya's leadership and Jack's visible transformation became symbols of what could emerge from conflict when empathy and cooperation prevailed. Amid these developments, Luna's progress was steady but measured. Her physical strength improved, and her spirits lifted as she reconnected with the routines and training that had defined her life. The trauma of injury and separation left scars. But with each passing day, those scars softened under the care and commitment surrounding her. Maya found solace in these small victories, drawing strength from the resilience she saw in Luna and, unexpectedly, in Jack. Their shared journey was far from over, but the fragile alliance they had forged was a beacon of hope amid uncertainty. Jack, once a man defined by solitude and rugged self-reliance, was discovering the power of connection and community. His partnership with Maya and the specialists was reshaping not only Luna's future, but his own. The lessons of responsibility, forgiveness, and collaboration were unfolding in real time, challenging old patterns and opening new possibilities. As the sun set over Cedar Hollow, casting a warm glow through the clinic windows, the team gathered for a final therapy session of the day. Luna rested peacefully, surrounded by those who had become her advocates and guardians. The air was thick with unspoken promises to continue fighting, to heal, and to rebuild what had been broken. In that quiet room, beneath the fading light, the story of Luna's recovery became a testament to resilience and redemption. It was a narrative not just about a dog, but about the fragile bonds between people, the capacity for change, and the enduring hope that even the deepest wounds could be mended through compassion and shared purpose. The crisp morning air in Cedar Hollow was charged with a quiet tension as Maya Collins stood in the center of the town square, her gaze scanning the crowd that had gathered. Word had spread quickly. A public appeal for information about Luna, the injured tactical dog, was underway. Flyers with Luna's distinct gray and white coat and the story of her plight plastered telephone poles, storefront windows, and community bulletin boards. The once quiet town was now abuzz with whispers, curiosity, and concern. Maya's voice carried steadily across the small gathering, her military training evident in the calm authority she projected. "Luna is more than a pet," she explained, her eyes locking onto the faces before her. "She's a partner, trained for missions that demand trust, loyalty, and courage. She needs our help to find the person who was with her last, so we can ensure she receives the care she deserves." The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some nodded with understanding, others exchanged skeptical glances. But the gravity of Maya's words, combined with the urgency in her tone, stirred a shift in the community's mood. The story was no longer just about a lost dog. It was about accountability, compassion, and the complex intersection of tradition and responsibility. Among those watching was a man whose presence was both familiar and fraught with unspoken tension, Jack Mercer. His rugged frame stood at the periphery, eyes shadowed beneath a weathered brow. Whispers had already begun to circulate that Jack was the man seen carrying Luna through the forest, and Maya's public appeal had only intensified the spotlight on him. The mounting pressure from the town and his hunting peers weighed heavily, but Jack's resolve had not waned. The release of surveillance footage taken near the forest edge added a dramatic turn to the unfolding drama. The grainy video captured a figure carrying an injured dog, the image blurred but unmistakable to those who knew the area. The footage quickly made its way to local news outlets and social media, sparking a wave of public outrage and calls for accountability. Comments poured in, some condemning Jack's actions, others defending him as a man trying to make amends. Maya watched the viral spread of the footage with a mixture of frustration and determination. The public exposure was a double-edged sword. It shone a light on the incident, forcing the community to confront uncomfortable truths. Yet it also risked inflaming tensions and complicating the search for understanding. Maya knew that the path to justice was fraught with challenges, but transparency was essential. Jack, meanwhile, grappled with the fallout. The once respected hunter found himself isolated, the whispers of betrayal and anger echoing through the town. His hunting companions distanced themselves, and some neighbors openly criticized his actions. The strain was palpable, yet Jack refused to retreat into silence. He understood that facing the consequences was part of the journey toward redemption. The community's response was swift and polarized. Local authorities were drawn into the controversy, launching inquiries into the circumstances surrounding Luna's injury and Jack's involvement. Animal welfare organizations weighed in, advocating for stricter regulations and safer hunting practices. Public forums were held, where voices clashed over tradition, responsibility, and the treatment of animals. Maya took a central role in these discussions, advocating not only for Luna's care, but for broader changes to prevent similar incidents. Her military background lent credibility and structure to the debates, helping to channel the community's passion into constructive dialogue. She faced opposition. Some viewed her as an outsider imposing change, but her persistence gradually earned respect. Jack's legal counsel advised caution, emphasizing the importance of cooperation and transparency. Despite the strain, Jack agreed to participate in interviews and provide statements, hoping that honesty would mitigate the damage. The process was grueling, exposing vulnerabilities and forcing him to confront the repercussions of his actions publicly. Amid the legal and social turmoil, Maya and Jack's interactions became more frequent and complex. Their shared focus on Luna's well-being created a tenuous bridge over the chasm of mistrust. Conversations that once bristled with accusation shifted toward understanding as they navigated the delicate balance between accountability and compassion. One pivotal moment came during a community meeting held at the town hall. Maya presented a detailed plan for improving hunting safety protocols, incorporating training, education, and stricter oversight. Jack spoke candidly about his experience, expressing remorse and endorsing the proposed measures. Their joint appearance was met with mixed reactions. Some applauded the courage, others remained skeptical. But it marked a significant step toward healing. The media coverage intensified, with local reporters following every development. Interviews with Luna's veterinarian, community leaders, and affected residents painted a nuanced picture of a town grappling with change. The story transcended Cedar Hollow, resonating with broader audiences concerned about animal welfare, rural traditions, and accountability. Social media became a battleground of opinions, where hashtags calling for justice clashed with those advocating forgiveness. Maya found herself navigating the digital storm, responding to criticism and rallying support with measured professionalism. Jack's online presence was quieter, but no less scrutinized, his efforts to engage marked by humility and restraint. Despite the public pressures, both Maya and Jack remained focused on Luna's recovery. The dog's progress served as a tangible symbol of hope amid the turmoil. Each step Luna took toward healing was celebrated quietly but fervently by those involved. A reminder that beneath the controversy lay a shared commitment to life and restoration. As the investigation unfolded, evidence emerged highlighting systemic issues within local hunting regulations and enforcement. The case sparked calls for reforms at the county level, with policymakers debating new legislation aimed at enhancing animal protection and hunter accountability. Maya's advocacy extended beyond the town, connecting with state officials and animal welfare groups to push for meaningful change. Jack, grappling with the personal and public consequences, found solace in the small acts of kindness from unexpected quarters. A few neighbors who had initially judged him harshly offered tentative support, recognizing his genuine remorse and efforts to make amends. These gestures, though modest, were significant in breaking down walls of isolation. The tension between tradition and progress played out not only in public forums, but in private moments. Maya and Jack shared conversations that revealed their differing perspectives, shaped by their backgrounds. Hers steeped in military discipline and service. His rooted in a rugged, self-reliant connection to the land. Yet, through these exchanges, they found common ground in their shared values of responsibility and care. The viral footage, once a source of division, became a catalyst for dialogue and transformation. It forced the community to confront uncomfortable realities and opened pathways toward reconciliation. The public exposure underscored the power of transparency and accountability in fostering change, even amid resistance. As the days turned into weeks, the narrative in Cedar Hollow shifted from outrage to action. The community, though still divided, began to embrace a future where tradition coexisted with empathy and responsibility. Maya and Jack's evolving partnership symbolized this shift, a complex but hopeful dance between past wounds and the promise of healing. In the quiet moments away from the spotlight, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The loss, the frustration, and now the fragile hope blossoming in unexpected places. Jack, too, contemplated the path ahead, aware that redemption was a process, not a destination. Their shared commitment to Luna and to each other forged a bond that transcended circumstance. The town of Cedar Hollow, once shaken by a single tragic shot, now stood at the threshold of change. The viral exposure of the incident had ignited a reckoning, challenging its people to redefine what it meant to live with honor, compassion, and accountability. The story was far from over, but the foundation for transformation had been laid, illuminated by the courage of those willing to face the truth and forge a new way forward. The air was thick with tension in the small conference room at the Cedar Hollow Community Center, where Maya Collins and Jack Mercer sat across from each other at a battered wooden table. The atmosphere was heavy, charged with unspoken grievances and the weight of recent events. Both were acutely aware that this confrontation was inevitable, a moment where the raw edges of their pain and frustration would either tear them apart or forge a fragile understanding. Maya's eyes, sharp and unyielding, met Jack's steady but guarded gaze. The woman who had spent years navigating the chaos of military operations now found herself in a battle of a different kind, one of emotions and accountability. Luna's absence and injury had become a fault line between them, exposing vulnerabilities neither wanted to face. "You should have told me the moment it happened," Maya said, her voice calm but edged with hurt. "Luna isn't just any dog. She's trained for missions where every second counts. Your silence put her at greater risk." Jack's jaw clenched, the weight of guilt pressing down like a stone. "I panicked," he admitted, his voice rougher than he intended. "I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe I could fix it on my own, keep her safe until I figured it out. I was wrong. I know that now." The admission hung in the air between them, a fragile bridge over the gulf of mistrust. Maya's expression softened slightly, though her frustration remained. "It's not just about what you did after. It's about understanding the impact of your actions. Luna's life depends on trust and precision. When that trust breaks, it's not easy to rebuild. Jack nodded slowly, the hard lines of his face easing as he absorbed her words. I get that. I'm sorry. For everything. I never meant to hurt her. But I'm here now, trying to make it right. Their exchange was tense but honest, a rare moment of vulnerability that neither had dared to show before. The shared concern for Luna was the thread weaving through their words, binding them in a common purpose despite their differences. Maya took a breath, shifting the conversation toward the practical. We need to work together if Luna is going to recover. That means sharing information, coordinating care, and being honest about what she needs. Jack's gaze met hers with a flicker of determination. I'm ready for that, whatever it takes. The conversation marked a turning point, a tentative truce born of necessity and genuine remorse. Together, they began to map out a plan for Luna's rehabilitation, combining Maya's precise knowledge of tactical training with Jack's intimate understanding of the local environment. Their partnership was uneasy but purposeful, each recognizing that the dog's survival depended on their ability to overcome personal pain. Outside the meeting room, the community watched with cautious optimism. News of the confrontation spread, casting Maya and Jack's collaboration in a new light. The townspeople, once divided by suspicion and anger, began to see the possibility of healing, not just for Luna, but for the fractured bonds between neighbors. As the days progressed, the alliance between Maya and Jack deepened through shared experiences and challenges. They spent hours at the veterinary clinic, assisting with Luna's physical therapy and organizing community efforts to raise funds for her care. Their interactions, while still tinged with residual tension, grew more respectful and cooperative. One afternoon, as Luna took tentative steps on a balance board, Maya and Jack exchanged a glance, an unspoken acknowledgement of progress both in the dog's recovery and in their own relationship. The journey was far from over, but the path forward was clearer. Yet, beneath the surface, old wounds lingered. Maya grappled with the betrayal she felt, the fear that Luna's injury represented a deeper disregard for the bond they shared. Jack wrestled with his pride and the judgment of his peers, struggling to reconcile his past with the man he was becoming. Their fragile alliance was tested repeatedly by the pressures surrounding them, the scrutiny of the community, the demands of Luna's care, and the shadows of their own histories. But each confrontation, each honest conversation, chipped away at the barriers between them. In quieter moments, Maya shared pieces of her military past, stories of missions, losses, and the unrelenting discipline that shaped her. Jack, in turn, revealed fragments of his life in the wilderness, the solitude he sought, the code he lived by, and the loneliness that had defined him. Through these exchanges, empathy began to take root. The narrative of their confrontation unfolded not as a dramatic clash, but as a nuanced dialogue, a testament to the complexity of human emotion and the possibility of reconciliation. Their shared commitment to Luna served as both motivation and mirror, reflecting their strengths and weaknesses alike. As the sun set over Cedar Hollow, casting long shadows across the town, Maya and Jack found themselves standing side by side outside the veterinary clinic. Luna rested nearby, her breathing steady but fragile. The moment was quiet but charged with significance, a symbol of the fragile truce and the tentative hope that had grown from their confrontation. Neither spoke, but the silence was comfortable, filled with the unspoken promise to continue moving forward together. The confrontation had not erased the past, but it had opened a door, a chance to rebuild trust, heal wounds, and face the challenges ahead as allies rather than adversaries. The story of Maya, Jack, and Luna was no longer just about injury and blame. It had evolved into a narrative of forgiveness, cooperation, and the enduring power of shared purpose. Their confrontation was a beginning, a step toward understanding and healing that would shape the days to come. Jack Mercer sat quietly on the worn bench outside the Cedar Hollow Town Hall, the evening sun casting a warm glow over the gathering crowd. He watched as neighbors and friends mingled, their conversations a blend of cautious optimism and lingering tension. The community meeting was unlike any he had attended before, a convergence of voices seeking not just answers, but justice and healing in the wake of Luna's injury. Inside the hall, Maya Collins stood at the podium, her presence commanding yet approachable. She addressed the audience with the clarity and conviction born of her military experience, outlining a comprehensive plan to improve hunting safety and animal welfare in Cedar Hollow. Her proposals included mandatory hunter education programs, stricter licensing requirements, and enhanced penalties for negligence. She emphasized the need for a cultural shift, one that balanced respect for tradition with accountability and compassion. Maya's words resonated with many, sparking thoughtful nods and murmurs of agreement. Her vision was not just about rules, but about fostering a community where responsibility was shared and valued. She spoke passionately about Luna, illustrating how the dog's injury was a catalyst for change, a call to protect not only animals, but the integrity of the town itself. Jack's role in the meeting was unexpected yet pivotal. When Maya invited him to speak, he rose with a quiet determination that silenced the room. His voice, rough but sincere, carried the weight of personal experience and remorse. "I'm here not just to answer for what happened," Jack began, his eyes meeting those of the audience, "but to stand with Maya and this community in making sure it doesn't happen again. I was wrong. I made mistakes. But I want to be part of the solution." His admission was met with a mix of reactions, some skeptical, others appreciative of his honesty. The vulnerability in his words cut through the defensiveness that had divided the town, opening a space for dialogue and reflection. The meeting continued with open forums where residents shared their perspectives. Hunters spoke of the challenges they faced in balancing tradition and safety. Animal lovers voiced their concerns and hopes for stronger protections. Local officials listened, taking notes and asking questions, signaling a willingness to act. Maya and Jack worked together to address concerns, clarify misunderstandings, and build consensus. Their collaboration, once fraught with tension, now modeled the cooperation the town needed. They navigated disagreements with patience, emphasizing common goals over differences. Outside, community members organized support groups and educational workshops, eager to contribute to the evolving effort. The incident that had once sparked division was now a rallying point for collective action. Fundraisers were planned to aid Luna's ongoing care, and discussions began about establishing a local animal welfare committee. The legal process surrounding Luna's injury progressed in parallel. Jack cooperated fully with authorities, demonstrating a commitment to accountability. His willingness to engage honestly with the investigation helped to mitigate potential penalties and rebuild trust. Maya's advocacy extended to supporting legal reforms that would enhance protections for service animals and regulate hunting practices more effectively. Amid these developments, Luna's condition steadily improved. The rehabilitation efforts, guided by the specialists and supported by Maya and Jack's combined dedication, yielded encouraging results. Luna gradually regained strength and mobility, her spirit rekindled by the care and attention surrounding her. The progress was not without setbacks. There were moments of frustration when Luna's recovery stalled or when community tensions resurfaced. Yet, each challenge was met with renewed resolve, a testament to the resilience of those invested in the journey. Maya found herself reflecting on the broader implications of the experience. The incident had exposed systemic issues, gaps in education, enforcement, and cultural attitudes that extended beyond Cedar Hollow. She began connecting with regional animal welfare organizations and military canine units to advocate for wider reforms and support networks. Jack, too, underwent a transformation. The man who once valued solitude and self-reliance now embraced community and accountability. He became an active participant in local initiatives, sharing his story to encourage safer hunting practices and greater empathy toward animals. His journey from isolation to engagement inspired others grappling with similar struggles. Their partnership, forged in adversity, grew stronger. Shared experiences deepened their understanding and respect for one another. They navigated the complexities of forgiveness and healing, recognizing that reconciliation was a process requiring patience and openness. The town of Cedar Hollow began to heal as well. Conversations that once bred division evolved into collaborative efforts to build a safer, more compassionate community. The lessons learned from Luna's injury became catalysts for positive change, shaping policies and attitudes in meaningful ways. In quiet moments, Maya and Jack often found themselves side by side, contemplating the path that had brought them here. The pain of loss and the weight of responsibility lingered, but so did hope and determination. Their bond, rooted in shared purpose and mutual respect, embodied the possibility of renewal. As the sun set over the peaceful town, the story of Luna, Maya, and Jack stood as a testament to resilience and justice. It was a narrative of accountability met with compassion, of wounds acknowledged and healed, and of a community united by the courage to confront its challenges and forge a better future. The forest around Cedar Hollow breathed with the quiet resilience of a world slowly healing. Jack Mercer and Maya Collins walked side by side along a winding path, the soft crunch of leaves beneath their boots mingling with the distant call of birds settling in for the evening. Luna trotted ahead, her steps steady and sure, a testament to the journey she had endured and the strength she had reclaimed. The trio moved through the woods that had once been the backdrop of tragedy, but now stood as a symbol of renewal. The towering pines and ancient oaks bore witness to the transformation, not only of the land, but of the lives intertwined within it. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of earth and pine needles, a balm for wounds both visible and unseen. Maya glanced at Jack, noting the subtle changes etched into his rugged features. The solitary hunter she had known was evolving, shaped by the trials they had faced together. His eyes held a newfound softness, a depth forged through remorse and the tentative hope of redemption. Jack met her gaze with a quiet understanding, the unspoken bond between them strengthened by shared experience. Luna paused at a clearing, her tail wagging gently as she looked back at her companions. The dog's journey from injury to recovery had been arduous, a path marked by pain, patience, and unwavering care. Now, her spirit seemed renewed, her presence a living bridge between past hardship and future promise. The forest canopy filtered the fading light, casting dappled shadows that danced with the gentle breeze. As they continued, Maya reflected on the lessons learned, the fragility of trust, the power of forgiveness, and the resilience born from compassion. The disciplined soldier in her found solace in the unpredictability of nature, where growth emerged from adversity and healing was a continuous process. Jack's voice broke the silence, low and thoughtful. "I never thought I'd find this kind of peace again," he admitted. "Not after everything, but walking here with Luna and you." It feels like a new beginning." Maya smiled softly, her own heart lighter than it had been in months. It is a new beginning, for all of us. The past doesn't disappear, but it doesn't have to define us either. Their footsteps carried them deeper into the woods, the path winding toward a small stream that murmured softly over smooth stones. They paused beside the water, the cool flow reflecting the twilight sky. Luna drank eagerly, her eyes bright and alert. The serenity of the moment was a stark contrast to the turmoil that had once engulfed their lives. The community of Cedar Hollow had faced its own reckoning, grappling with loss, accountability, and the necessity of change. The wounds inflicted by Luna's injury and the events that followed had begun to mend, knit together by the threads of understanding and collective effort. Maya reached into her pack and pulled out a small notebook, flipping through pages filled with plans, notes, and reflections. The work was far from over. There were still challenges to meet, reforms to implement, and healing to foster. Yet the progress made was undeniable, a beacon guiding them forward. Jack reached out, placing a steady hand on Maya's shoulder. "We've come a long way," he said. "Not just for Luna, but for ourselves and this town." Maya nodded, the weight of his words settling comfortably between them. They had both been changed by the journey, shaped by pain, resilience, and the unexpected bonds formed in adversity. As dusk deepened, the three continued their walk back toward the edge of the forest, where the lights of Cedar Hollow twinkled like distant stars. The path ahead was uncertain, marked by challenges yet to come, but also by the promise of hope and renewal. Luna's pace quickened, and she glanced back at her companions, her eyes shining with trust and affection. In that moment, she was more than a dog who had survived injury. She was a symbol of resilience and the enduring power of connection. Maya and Jack exchanged a glance, their shared journey etched into every step. The past had tested them, but it had also taught them to forgive, to collaborate, and to believe in the possibility of new beginnings. Together, they stepped forward into the night, the forest embracing them in its quiet strength. Their story was one of healing, not just of body, but of spirit, and a testament to the extraordinary bonds forged when lives intersect in the face of adversity. The journey was far from over, but as they walked beneath the stars and through the whispering trees, hope illuminated the path ahead.